Peace! Welcome to a new video in book brainstorming. We are continuing to explain the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. The title of the chapter says, "The poor work for money while the rich have money work for them." If you want to know more, I will tell you. I am your brother Salah. I read a book and explain it to you in interesting ways. So, if you are one of those people who don't like reading books but want to gain the benefits of reading without reading, then follow us and subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. He says, "In 1956, when I was 9 years old, I asked my father how I could become one of the rich. His answer was, 'Why do you want to be rich?' I said, 'Because Jimmy's mother, my friend at school, came by in a very luxurious car, and they had 3 of our school friends with them, and they were going to spend the weekend at their beach house. They told me I couldn't come.'" Robert says, "My father was shocked by what I said and asked me, 'Did they really say that?' 'Yes, they did.' My father was silent for a while and then said, 'Okay, I will teach you.' He told me, 'If you want to be rich, learn how to make money.' I asked him, 'How do I make money, Dad?' He laughed and said, 'You need to use your brain.' The next day, I went to my friend Mike and told him about it. I asked him, 'Do you want to join me in making money so you can be rich like Jimmy and his family?' He asked, 'How do we make money?' I told him, 'I don't know, but the important thing is that you—' He said yes, he agreed, and from the next day, we started thinking of different ways to make money. After weeks of thinking, we began going to the neighboring areas and asking the neighbors to keep toothpaste and oil containers for us. When one of the neighbors asked me what we were going to do with them, I told him, 'Sorry, that's a trade secret.' We continued collecting ketchup and toothpaste containers and stored them in our drawer. At that time, toothpaste and ketchup weren't in plastic containers like they are now. The important thing is, one day my mom noticed that the place was a mess because of all the containers filling the space. She asked us, 'What are you doing?' I told her, 'Sorry, Mom, but it's a trade secret.' She gathered all our materials and was about to throw them out of the house, but we apologized to her and asked her to give us 1 more week to collect a few more toothpaste containers, waiting for the neighbors to finish them so we could start our first production line to make money. His father, when he saw them, was laughing and amazed at what they were doing. A friend of his came to show him what the boys were up to. They were melting these containers until they became liquid because they were made of tin, and then pouring it into small round lids to make it look like coins. When he made the first coin, he smiled at his father and was very happy. His father stood there thinking what they were doing. He asked them, 'What are you doing?' I said to him, 'Father, we are on our way to becoming rich. I did exactly what you told me and made the machine.' His father, holding the coin, started laughing. 'This is illegal counterfeiting, son.' He says at that moment our dreams and ambitions, which we worked hard for, collapsed. He tells them, 'But to be fair, you did a good job. You showed how talented and determined you are. But I will give you some advice. If you give up on failure, you will remain poor all your life.' When I asked my father why he wasn't one of the rich, he told me it was because he chose the field of teaching, and teachers don't think about money. That's why he couldn't help me in making money. If you want to learn how to really make money, go learn from Mike's father. He will teach you how to achieve wealth." Mike was surprised and said, "Me? My father?" He replied, "Yes, your father. Your father and I deal with the same bank." Mike responded, "How can my father be rich when we don't have a nice car or a good house like our friends at school? If my father knew how to make money, we would be in a better situation." My father told him, "Being rich doesn't necessarily mean having a nice car or a great house. Jimmy's father, who you see at school, isn't as rich as you think. He works for a big company that gave him the nice car and the house they live in. The company he works for is facing a financial crisis, and soon Jimmy's father will be out on the street without a job. The company will take back the car and the nice house. But Mike's father is like someone building a big kingdom. I believe he will be very rich in the coming years." Of course, you must have wondered who Robert Kiyosaki's rich dad is, the one he talked about in his book. It's Mike's father, his friend. And the poor dad of Robert Kiyosaki is his real father, the one speaking now. Back to our topic. Mike couldn't believe what he heard about his father and ran to him to set up a meeting with him and Robert Kiyosaki to teach them how to make money. And indeed, he agreed to meet them next Saturday. They say when the time came, Mike and I arrived at the house, and the house looked very old. The floor was wooden and creaked with every step, and the furniture was old. Although it was clean, it needed to be completely replaced. He had an office with 3 employees because he had 2 stores and a warehouse at that time. The important thing is, when we entered, Mike's father was standing at his desk waiting for us and said, "Are you ready, boys?" We said, "Yes, we are ready." He specifically asked me, "Mike told me you want to learn ways to make money. Is that true, Robert?" I said, "Yes, that's true." He said, "All right, no problem. But my way of teaching how to make money is different from the lectures and training courses you study in school. I teach you the same way life teaches you. But to teach you, I have a condition. You must work for me so you can be close to me while I teach you. Anyone who refuses to work for me will not learn anything about making money. This is my offer. Take it or leave it." I asked him, "Can I ask a question?" He said, "No, this is my offer and I don't have time to waste." If you can't make a quick decision, you won't learn anything about making money. You have 10 seconds to decide because opportunities come and go quickly. I accepted the offer and Mike accepted the offer. He said, "Excellent, Mrs. Martin will introduce you to the work and the place where you will be working. I will pay you 10 cents for each hour of work for 3 hours every Saturday, 30 cents every Saturday." I said, "But I have a football match every Saturday." Mike's father lowered his voice and said, "This is my offer. Either you accept it or you reject it." So I said, "I accept," and chose work over play. We started working on Saturday morning. Our job was to unload goods, clean them, and put them back. Robert said, "I used to take the 30 cents every Saturday and buy magazines and children's stories. Before the week ended, I had read all the magazines and stories and waited for the next week to get another 30 cents to buy more magazines. I continued like this for 4 weeks. I got bored with the work because I accepted this job to learn ways to make money. But I hadn't seen Mike's father since our first meeting. My real father passed by and asked if I had learned anything yet. I said, "No, I haven't learned anything. We work 3 hours every Saturday, and I haven't seen Mike's father since our first meeting a month ago." He said, "What do you mean, a month and you haven't learned anything?" I said, "No, I haven't learned anything." He said, "That man is exploiting you. You should go to him and tell him to raise your wage to 25 cents an hour or teach you ways to make money, or you won't continue working with him anymore." He said, "When my dad was filled with anger, I went to Mike and told him, 'Listen, Mike, your dad is exploiting us and I'm not going to continue working. We waited for 4 weeks and we haven't seen your dad since the first meeting, and he gives us a small amount of money for cleaning the shelves. We agreed initially because he promised to teach us ways to make money, and so far we haven't learned anything.' Mike then told me, 'I knew there would come a time when you would refuse to continue working and wouldn't be able to handle it. When you come to tell me this, know that he wants to meet us next Saturday.' I said to him, 'So your dad set me up?' 'No, don't think that way, but we will meet on Saturday and he will explain everything to us.' So we went to the appointment and waited for his dad to finish his meetings. I sat there boiling with anger for 45 minutes. After a while, he went to make a phone call in the other room and stayed there for another 30 minutes, completely ignoring me. Finally, when he finished the call, he came out and said, 'Come on, boys.' When we sat down, he put his feet up on the swivel chair and said to me, 'Robert, I heard you want a raise or you're going to quit working at the store.' At that moment, I burst into tears and told him, 'You broke your promise to us. You said you would teach us if we worked for you. I left my ball game and worked for you with all my effort, but you didn't keep your promise. This shows that you are a fraud and an exploiter, just as people say about you in town, that you are greedy and only keep the money for yourself and don't care about your employees. And you left me outside your office waiting all this time without giving me any kind of respect, even though I'm just a young boy and I need better treatment from an adult.' Robert was sitting there contemplating my words until I finished, and then he said to me, 'You're not bad. In less than a month you became like most employees.' But I didn't understand his words at that time and told him, 'You still haven't taught me anything yet.' He said, 'On the contrary, I am teaching you.' I said, 'What have you taught me? I haven't even seen you since our first meeting when we agreed to work together. And you keep giving me tasks. I should report you to the government because there's a law against child labor, and my father is a government employee who knows everything.' His response was, 'You're like most of the employees who work for me. They either end up getting fired or they leave the job themselves.' I said, 'But you're not teaching me.' He said, 'Who told you I'm not teaching you?' I said, 'How are you teaching me when I don't see you or meet you?' He said, 'Do you want me to teach you the same way they teach you in school with lectures?' I said, 'Yes.' He said, 'No, son, that's not my way of teaching. I told you I would teach you the same way life teaches you. Does life talk to you and give you lectures? Of course not. I'm teaching you life lessons that if you learn well, you will succeed and follow the path of the rich. If you don't learn them, life will continue to push you towards things like jobs, loans, debts, and bills, and you won't even realize that it's life pushing you towards them. Do you understand?' I said, 'I understand only one thing, and that is that you're a stingy man and you're using me.' He laughed and said to me, 'Change your perspective and don't blame me. Don't think that I am your only problem, because if I were your problem, you would need to learn how to change me. If you think the problem is within you, you need to learn how to change it and become wiser. Don't be like most people who want everyone else to change for them while they never try to change themselves. Keep in mind that it's easier to change yourself than to change someone else. When you face a problem, learning how to solve it and benefit from it is better than trying to blame others. So I told him, but you're stingy. He said, see, you're insisting that I'm the problem. I said, indeed, you are the problem. He said, fine, keep thinking that way and you won't learn anything. Tell me, what options do you have now? I told him, the options are either you increase my salary or I will resign. He said, that's what most employees do. If they don't get a raise, they resign and look for another job, thinking that the new job will solve their problems with a higher salary. But when they work for a while, they start complaining again that the salary is not enough. I said, so what do you want me to do? Should I be content with the 30 years you're giving me? Will that solve my problems? He said, that's also what most employees do. They are not satisfied with their salary, but they stay in the job hoping for a raise or a future pension. I said, you're confusing me. So what will solve my problems? He lightly tapped my head and said, what will solve your problem is inside your head. Use your brain. He told me, what I taught you in this lesson is that a job and a salary will never make you rich. He asked, how did you feel standing outside, humiliated, waiting for me just to get a job or ask for a raise? I said, it felt very bad and really frustrating. He told me, this is what I want to convey to you. If you choose to be an employee all your life, this is what will happen to you. You will either be chasing a job or chasing a salary. You are now 9 years old and have already tasted the bitterness of a job from the first month. This is the path of pain that others experience for 50 years. You had to taste the job in the first month so you could thank me before wasting 50 years of your life in the same feeling. No matter how high the salary of a job is, you won't become rich through it. As you see, many people have high salaries but are not rich. They have debts, installments, and commitments. The rich are a small percentage of society. I am happy that your low salary made you angry and refused to continue with it. If you hadn't gotten angry and were satisfied with the pennies I gave you, I would have said you couldn't be taught. This was a test for you. He then told me a very beautiful saying. The rich do not work for money. Rather, money works for them. They sit back while their money works to bring them more money. Every dollar you own is an employee working for you. He told me, look at your father. He has a high income from his job, but he is still unable to escape his debts and bills, despite his excellent education and ability to get any high-paying job. Despite that, he chose the safe side to get money because he didn't learn anything about the nature of money in school. The fear of not being able to pay bills and obligations makes them cling to their jobs to the point where many people give up their rights and endure their anger towards managers and business owners just to be a slave to money. He asked me if I was convinced that he was teaching me. I put my head down and said, yes, indeed, I am learning. He asked me if I was ready to learn more or not. I said, yes, I am ready. He said, all right, from today you will work in the store without any pay, not even the 30 cents I used to give you. I was shocked by his words and said, what? I came to you asking for a raise and you tell me to work without pay? That's not fair at all. There should be compensation. He said, you came to learn, not to ask for a job. Mike, my son, works with you without pay, and this is my offer. Do you agree or not? I said, fine, I agree. He said, let's go to the store. Robert Kiyosaki says, I was stunned by what happened. I came asking for a raise or to quit the job, and everything changed. I will continue working without pay. Robert Kiyosaki says, I didn't want to tell my father because his mindset is that of a poor person and he wouldn't understand the purpose or the goal of what I was going through. Even I couldn't grasp the idea at that time. After 3 weeks of hard work in the store, Mike and I heard the sound of a truck stopping in front of the store and we saw a rich man for the first time in the store. He signaled for us to come to him. He bought us 2 ice creams and told us to come take a walk in the nearby park. When we arrived, we sat at a table and he gave us the ice cream and asked us how things were going with the unpaid work. Mike and I started looking at each other, feeling that he wanted to convey something to us. We replied, thank God, things are going well. He said, well done, boys. I see that you have understood the first lesson better than falling into the job trap like Mrs. Martin and the other employees who work in a job, take a small salary, and are content with their situation. Their whole dream is to take a 3-week vacation every year and a pension after 45 years of hard work in the job. I told him, but Mrs. Martin is a very nice lady, and she works as your office manager and takes a salary to live on. He laughed and said, Mrs. Martin is like a mother, and her job is high. She works for me, and I'm not mocking her work, but it's not the best option for her. She could have chosen a better life if she had thought correctly. He then asked us, what do you think if I gave you a wage per hour, not 10 cents, but 25 cents per hour? Robert Kiyosaki says, at that moment my heart started beating fast. I whispered to Mike, and we felt that this was a trap. We shook our heads and said, no, we don't agree. He said, really? You refuse 25 cents? Okay, what if I gave you $1 per hour? Robert Kiyosaki says, my heart started to leap out of my chest and something inside me was telling me to accept the offer, but we shook our heads and said, no, we don't agree. He said, I will pay you $5 per hour. And this is the final offer you have. Either you accept it or you refuse and continue your work without a salary. He says, my heart and mind were tempted by this offer, but I paused for a while and thought, my brother, $5 an hour, we were in 1956, no employee, regardless of their position, was getting that amount. He says, at that time, I thought that with this money, I could buy anything I wanted, and I would be richer than my friends at school. We would even become the richest kids in the world. Yet we said no because we felt it was a trap and he was testing us. He told us, excellent, I really like that. He told us that all people in the world are driven to make money by two emotions, desire or fear. The poor call this desire greed, while desire is a dream for any person to have a beautiful house, a nice car, or to own a big company. The second emotion is fear. People fear not being able to pay their debts and obligations, which makes them cling to their jobs as the safe way to make money from their perspective. He said that the difference between the rich and the poor is their reactions to these emotions. Poor or middle-class people always fear the lack of money or losing it. So when an employee gets their salary, their reaction is emotional to keep that money because they see it as their safe income instead of using their mind to face the fear itself. This leads to money controlling and dominating their lives. But the rich think completely differently, and they are the ones who have the second emotion, which is desire. Or the poor's greed or avarice, as some call it, but this is natural for anyone who wants a better life. Desire is the drive to achieve this goal, and money is the means to fulfill that desire. The rich can make $1 work for them to produce another dollar. Someone might ask, where did he get the first dollar from if he didn't have a job and never worked? Look, my dear follower, the problem is not with the job itself. On the contrary, a job is the first step for anyone at the beginning of their life. You won't strike the ground to get money, for example. Surely you need to work a little at the start to make a certain amount. But the lesson the rich dad teaches us is that a job is not the safe or only income you should rely on for your entire life, as some think. He shows you that if you are looking for a job or already working in one, start using the income from it to create other projects that bring you additional income. Over time, you can get rid of the job you are in and hire people to work for you. This way, you have money working for you, not you working for money. The rich dad said that if a person thinks instead of looking for a job to get money and spend it on his commitments and secure his fear, he should ask himself, is the job the best work that will keep him from fear all his life? The answer will certainly be no. The job is a short-term solution to his long-term problems. Therefore, the job is not always safe. You might lose it at any moment. Or your salary reaches where it won't be enough for you. Robert Kiyosaki once said after that beautiful lesson, use your minds and look for a way to get money other than working for money. We went back to keep working in the store and he told us, keep working and know that if you continue working and forget about the salary, that's a big mistake that will make life harder and cause you despair. Use your mind and work without a salary and your mind will find ways to make money better than what I would have paid you, Robert said. And we kept thinking for 2 weeks while we were at school, working every Saturday without pay. Until one day, while we were working, we saw a truck delivering magazines to us. After Mrs. Martin received the magazines, the representative gave her a box with samples of new children's magazines that were not yet released. He told her, these are extra magazines for display. If you like them, you can order more, but selling these samples is prohibited. After the representative left, we asked Mrs. Martin, what do you do with these magazines? She said, we store them here in the store, and when someone buys a quantity of magazines, we give one. Mike and I thought about how we could benefit from these magazines. We went back to Mrs. Martin and asked her if we could use the magazines. She asked, what will you do with them? We told her, we will take them to Mike's house, read them, and return them. She said, no problem. Any employee working here in the store has the right to borrow the magazines, read them, and return them. But be careful, don't follow it because it's against the law. They said we actually took the magazines and went to Mike's house. They had a spacious area under the basket entrance, but it needed some organization. We cleaned the place, made shelves, and arranged the magazines on them. We opened a reading library and invited the neighborhood kids and our friends from school. We started the work and we had a great turnout of visits to the library. We used to charge each child 10 cents to enter the library and spend 2 hours reading as many magazines as they wanted because we could only open for 2 hours a day. They say a single magazine would sell for 10 cents in stores, but we provided them with a whole library containing hundreds of magazines for just 10 cents. Our income from the project reached $9.50 a week, and we hired Mike's sister as the librarian for $1 a week. Mike and I continued working in the store without a salary, and we had money working for us. This project lasted for 3 months until one day it collapsed due to problems among the children in the library. Mike's father decided that we should close the library we had started, but the important thing is that we learned the lesson and understood how to make money work for us. And you don't need capital to start making money. Every dollar you invest is an employee working for you. And with that, we have finished the first lesson of the 6 lessons taught to us by the Rich Dad. I apologize if the lesson was dense. If you liked our effort, please subscribe. Don't forget to give us a like if you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for the next chapter. Peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings.